A mass inspection and deportation of those we call legal immigrants has begun. These are people who came to the United States on legal visas and for some reason stayed in the country. Some have business status, others are tourists, some came to study, and others have already received a green card. This does not concern those who have already obtained citizenship and are citizens of the United States of America. You wouldn't believe how much stricter the problems and rules have become, which can affect you, your relatives, neighbors, and friends. So please forward this to them because it could be incredibly important for them. Some things just need to be done urgently. But more on that at the end. First, I'll paint you a picture, explain the urgency and necessity of these very actions I'm telling you about. So, in January of 2025, President Donald Trump issued a new order for the inspection and mandatory registration of all legal immigrants who have been in the country for more than 30 days. So, in January, this is one of the first orders, which means it's considered a very important moment by the new government, right? And now it was only signed in January. In April, the preparations for implementing the order began. And now, in August of 2025, a mass inspection, and I would even say a purge, has started. First, let's talk about what is stated in the order, and then about how it was understood and started to be carried out by the zealous executors. The order aims to strengthen control over the stay of foreigners and tighten immigration policy. Additionally, the order mandates the implementation of so-called unified verification standards. Let's say what this could mean. Applicants for a green card and other benefits are required to provide their social media profiles. Comprehensive checks of eligibility and inadmissibility from a national security perspective. I want to warn you right away that if you pretend to be, as they say, a lamppost who knew nothing and understood nothing, they will still find your profile. And if you start deleting something, that's just wonderful for them, so just think about that. The full text of the presidential decree on foreigners, issued by Donald Trump, January 20th, 2025. January 20th is the first day, gentlemen, the first day, he wrote it. This was one of the most important and, well, let's say significant decrees from Donald Trump's point of view. It is partially available in open sources. Here are its official key provisions. The Department of Homeland Security is required to ensure that all foreign nationals comply with their registration obligations under Section 262 of the Immigration and Nationality Act and similar regulations, and also to ensure that failure to comply with registration rules is treated as a priority for civil and criminal prosecution. Continuation. Understood. Requirements. All foreigners over the age of 14 who have not completed fingerprint registration when obtaining a visa and who are in the United States for 30 days or longer must register and submit biometric data. Furthermore, parents and legal guardians are required to register children under the age of 14 if they have not been registered and are staying in the country for more than 30 days. When foreigners reach the age of 14, they are required to undergo re-registration. If you brought a child, even if registered, you must re-register them when they turn 14. So, within 30 days, they need to do it now, so to speak, right now. And after registration and submitting biometrics, the foreigner is issued a certificate of registration. So, if you don't have it, does that mean you don't have it? So, all persons over 18 years old are required to always have it with them if they don't have it with them. Even if he ends up having it in the end, there will still be a fine. Any unregistered foreigner is required to fulfill these requirements. Otherwise, there are criminal and civil penalties. For example, a fine of up to $5,000 or imprisonment for up to 6 months. Gentlemen, I'll tell you later what else they do. For providing false information, there is criminal prosecution and, guess, deportation, SBER additional provision. In the United States of America, the deportation of foreigners is carried out for clearly defined reasons: violation of immigration laws. Entered, collected something, staying without legal grounds, overstayed a visa, sham marriages, false statements when obtaining visas or green cards, committing criminal offenses, either you didn't declare it when you entered or you committed it here. As for that, by the way, check what criminal offenses are. It's not necessarily murder. It's much more than that. As for public calls to change the government system of the United States of America, the country's legislation provides for deportation. All of this is recorded as an action related to anarchism, extremism, or terrorist activity. Here are two laws. One is called the Exclusion of Anarchists Act. However, unfortunately, they don't quite understand the word anarchism or anarchy the way philosophers do, but so to speak, that's how they understand it, so that's how they explain it. And the second is about emigration, taking into account the deportation of non-citizens became a citizen. Everything is different. Those who oppose organized government or incite rebellion, let's say, yes. Simply publicly expressing dissatisfaction with the United States policy or making negative statements about Trump is not considered a legal basis for deportation if it is not accompanied by calls for violence or the commission of a crime. If you are calling for violence or have committed a crime, you stole 25 cents from the hospital fund, that's what, exactly. Deportation, removal from the United States, is carried out for violating immigration or criminal laws, but not for political views. And then there's the provision about no threat to security. Who will decide whether there's a security threat or not? Think for yourself. There have already been cases of deportation, ladies and gentlemen, from the United States. These are people who are here on visas or with green cards for reasons related to their political statements, who were involved in activism. However, deportations do not occur just for expressing an opinion. Usually it involves a combination of political activity, public protests, accusations of supporting organizations recognized as terrorist by the United States, or violations of other immigration rules. Let me give you a couple of examples. In 2025, a Russian activist, Leonid Malekin, was deported from our district attorney. He was a volunteer from Navalny's headquarters. His United States asylum request was denied and he was deported. I think back to Russia. In January of 1925, he was deported to Russia. Yevgenia Mashinin, yes, such an anti-war activist. His asylum application was opened because of his public statements. Palestinian activist Mahmoud Khalil, he has a green card, by the way. He was arrested in 2025. I think everyone knows this story. He was at risk of deportation due to suspicions of supporting organizations that are recognized as terrorist. The court temporarily blocked his deportation. But Keyes raised the issue that a green card does not guarantee absolute protection from deportation for political reasons. A green card does not guarantee it. It is not recognized by the United States government, the Department of the Interior, or Homeland Security as citizenship. If the activities of a green card holder are considered a threat or have serious foreign policy consequences, who will decide whether they are serious or not? Sometimes the grounds for deportation can seem vague. If the authorities believe that a person's actions or statements create risks for national security or foreign policy, then the process of revoking the green card visa may be initiated. And what follows is deportation. The holder. For the first actions, not in the military diploma, our Labor Cindy's recent stories are next. and staying outside the country for more than, I think, 12 months without significant reasons. Someone was sick there or something like that. Yes, or moving to another country for permanent residence. So you have this card in your pocket, he says, but you actually live somewhere else. Serious offenses and crimes, convictions for serious criminal offenses, drug-related involving weapons or violence. So even what is called domestic violence, that is towards your own wife or children, that counts as violence, right? Even minor offenses, for example, petty theft or driving under the influence. By the way, driving under the influence can lead to deportation. Deceiving government agencies, deliberately falsifying information in documents submitted to government services, providing false information when obtaining status, violating tax laws, for example, ignoring the filing of an income tax return. Ladies and gentlemen, please note, driving under the influence, that is, driving under the influence, not filing an income tax return, and making public statements. What does public mean? On your social networks. Entering the country with a criminal record when attempting to return to the United States. So if you committed a crime here, yes, you had a criminal record, well, fine, you live your life, you went somewhere to visit relatives, you flew back, and they tell you, they can and most likely will deny you entry or even start the deportation process. If there is a criminal record in each case, the deportation procedure requires serious legal review in immigration court, and the green card holder, of course, has the right to defense. If there is a risk of violation, it is recommended to urgently contact a specialized immigration attorney to prevent loss of status and deportation. The consequences of driving under the influence for United States green card holders can be quite serious. A conviction for this can be grounds for losing your green card and deportation, especially if it is a repeat offense or accompanied by aggravating circumstances. You hit something there, or God forbid you hit someone. A conviction for drunk driving will be visible to immigration authorities when reviewing documents for status renewal or naturalization, and it may, and most likely will, lead to a denial. When trying to return to the United States, immigration services may deny entry or start deportation proceedings if there is a conviction for drunk driving in your record. In 2025, there is discussion about tightening the law, which could make any drunk driving conviction an official reason for deporting green card holders for past offenses. So, gentlemen, 2 years ago you had a driving under the influence. Well, driving under the influence means driving under the influence. And now they might dig it up and call you in and say, well, let's see if there was anything else, if there was something else. It is recommended if you have a criminal record. Actually, anyone, but especially now they pay attention to driving under the influence. Be sure to consult with a lawyer before applying for status extension or citizenship, and also avoid new ones. Please don't drive after drinking. It's better to call an Uber. Here, or have what's called a designated driver, meaning someone from the group who's driving. That's it. One person, 2, 3, 4, as many as you want, but at least one should not drink. That's it. So don't travel abroad without consulting a lawyer if you have anything in your past that you think they might uncover, because now they're starting to dig things up. All foreign citizens, as I already mentioned, who have arrived in the United States and have been here for more than 30 days without permanent status, as well as NU, are subject to mandatory registration. Those who have received temporary visas. Millions of foreigners come to the United States every year. Up to 15 million people could potentially fall under the new requirements. No. The figure includes students, workers, tourists, and visa holders, but it may vary depending on the final interpretation. So, as I already said, they are tightening things up now. So if anything else gets added to this, I'll let you know as soon as there's something new. Violators of the new requirements are already being fined and losing their visa status. In June-July of 2025, a ban was introduced on issuing visas to citizens from 19 countries. So our countries haven't been affected by this yet. Border services have received expanded budgets and authority. They plan up to 7,000 arrests a day, gentlemen. 100,000 new places have been created in detention centers. They arrest and transfer you there. If you get a lawyer, whether theirs or yours, and it works out, fine. If not, they deport you. In summer 2025, new requirements emerged. More visa categories faced inspection. Asylum applications now had a $100 fee plus extra state taxes for immigrants. Penalties for lacking documents have increased. As I said, a $5,000 fine, deportation, and imprisonment apply. With a migration emergency declared, deportation of illegal immigrants is increasing. The operation for inspection and registration is ongoing and is constantly being adjusted. That's why you need to keep an eye on what's happening. New procedures are being introduced, special registration centers set up, notifications sent, and arrests and deportations are increasing. So let me go over the main points of the decree one more time just to make sure it's clear, okay? All foreigners over 14, including students, tourists, workers, and entrepreneurs. Registration, submission of biometric data, fingerprints, photographs, digital signature, and filling out a questionnaire at the offices of the United States Citizenship and Immigration Services, as well as at post offices, international airports, or online through the United States Citizenship and Immigration Services portal. You can register, ladies and gentlemen. After registration, a certificate is issued, which you must always carry with you and present upon request to law enforcement officers. What are the consequences? Failure to register can result in a hefty fine and even criminal liability. Well, I've already mentioned this twice. If you are a legal immigrant residing in the United States, it is recommended to register immediately to avoid fines or possible legal issues. The government has realized that besides the undocumented immigrants, there are between 15 and 20 million, though no one knows for sure. There is also a problem with some of the so-called legal immigrants. Some of them are clearly anti-American and wish us harm. Some advocate for enemies like Hamas, Hezbollah, Iran, Russia, and China, and even call for active measures. There are those who direct their hatred at specific groups of the population, which is strictly prohibited by the Constitution, for example, at Jews, or, for example, at followers of parties or ideologies they don't like. And the authorities who got involved in this matter, so that the authorities who want it would introduce it. It's them, those who don't want it to be introduced, want the authorities who got involved in this matter. They don't want this matter. They didn't get involved in this matter. It follows. Currency, cars, drunk people, etc. If there are those who overstayed their visa or upon entry lied about something in their immigration documents. Therefore, for all of you who have been here for more than 30 days but are not citizens, the following recommendations: urgently register and obtain a document. Second, if something with you is not quite, as they say, kosher, meaning not exactly as it should be. If there are possible issues, then before you go to register, consult with a lawyer. He won't tell anyone anything. A lawyer who specializes, of course, in immigration. It will cost you a few $100s per hour, but his or her recommendations may turn out to be invaluable. Absolutely invaluable for you. Maybe before registering, it would be better for you to apply to correct some documents, or find out from the Department of Motor Vehicles how to erase or remove your violation from the database they have. In no case should you leave it to chance if you have, as they say, a skeleton in your closet. Gentlemen, for most of those who live here with temporary status, I would say there's nothing to worry about. But there is an estimate that out of the 15 million legal people who are here temporarily, the green card is also temporary. We don't know. That's why it's called temporary. More than 10% will be deported. That is, this is the ministry's assumption. That's 1.5 million people. If you want to sleep peacefully, make sure everything is clean, or that it was clean, so that, as they say, not even a mosquito could get through. I wish you good luck with the registration, but if you decide not to register or not to go there at all, that's your choice. As they say, someone very foolish once said that taking risks is a noble thing. I don't know what noble means, but I do know that in this case, it's a very foolish thing to do. That's all for now. Goodbye until next time.